Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jonathon Haddad, and today we have something special for you. For our folks on the West Coast, we appreciate you. It's 7:30 in the morning, and to our friends in Hawaii, you're probably still sleeping, so catch the recording on this one. But either way, we're very excited today. Got two special guests. They've done such an incredible job at GoRascal, a company that year to date has done over $1 billion in business. And with me today, we have Alex Jokai, VP of Growth, and we have Scott Valins, founder and CEO of GoRascal, who, by the way, he is no slump. He's at $58 million in business year to date right now. Gentlemen, how are you?
Great.
Awesome.
Thank
Happy
you.
to be here.
No, thank you both for being here. The story's pretty cool. Just getting to know the two of you. Scott and I have connected early on, and it's just incredible just to watch the growth and how fast you all are doing it, especially where you're located. Not an easy place to be, especially with all the red tape you guys have going on. So I'm going to get us started here. We're here to talk about sales tips. We're here to talk about strategy, giving you tangible information that you can take back to your business right away. But first things first, GoRascal. How on earth did the name come about? How did it start? I think a Little Rascals right away when I first heard the name of the company, but where did this all come to life?
Yeah, we'll take Little Rascals. That's fun. So I'll be kind of brief on this, but we're in New York City. And when we started the company, me and my partner, David, 4 years ago, we were all about building, almost kind of UWM style, one office, one roof. So we needed sales ops. We needed everything in New York City. Our backdrop is probably the second business tech portal of the world, right? We wanted to hire people out of college, coming out of school, and we wanted to attract them to the mortgage business, which, sounds boring, kind of is boring. And we were competing with tech companies, right? Google, Facebook, Yelp, so many of them either headquartered or like second headquarter here in New York City. So we're like, we have to have a different name than the traditional mortgage company. Next Door Lending's awesome. In fact, like that's a great one, and probably one that maybe would have been enough, but we had to go out there. We had to have a goofy name. We had to sound like a tech startup, like a VC-backed company. We had the cookies, the snacks. We had the cool office space in Brooklyn because we wanted to take good talent coming out of college and say, don't go work for a tech startup that's, is venture backed and might go bust in 6 months. Come work for like a cash flow stable business that has a lot of tech to it, is doing things differently, and come join us. Come join GoRascal. So we're like, we have to have a way far out there name, and we work with a branding agency. Believe it or not, some people laugh and like that's what they came up with, but they did, and so we went with it. It was originally just going to be Rascal, and we needed to put like some kind of extra oomph in front of it. So we kind of played off of GoDaddy, and we're like, all right, we're going to be GoRascal.
First of all, that is not what I thought you were about to say about the origin of this story. Here's what's really
not
cool.
A dog.
You just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
You gave me goosebumps, and here's why. You built the business not around you, but around who you wanted to bring in the door. That just blew my mind. You said college, right out, here's what I have to deal with. Obviously, New York on top of it, you have a tremendous amount of red tape from the compliance side of things. I mean, that state takes years to even get approved in, something we've been in process for God knows how long on our end here. Where'd that mindset come from? How did you know, with your experience in the industry, where'd that mindset come from about, hey, college kids, here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're going to do it. And then the branding agency, by the way, I think that's brilliant. People don't always realize the concepts and grasping of marketing. You need people that are professionals helping build your brand. But the college kids, why was that the focus?
Yeah, so on the brand side, I think they did a great job with the dog and the obedience and the playfulness and the loyalty and all those things. So when we put the dog into the brand, yeah, people think like, oh, Scott must have had this dog named Rascal growing up, this crazy story. And, maybe I tell some people that I did. But really the dog piece and element, yeah, we have a bunch of staff members who brought their dogs to work, and we had some bigger visions around dog stuff. But so how did the vision and the idea? So really, I was just a producer for the first like 18, 17 years of my career, really just focusing on building my book of business and whatnot. And I kind of always knew I wanted to scale and go big, but I didn't have the people. I didn't have the partners to do it. And honestly, I never found the time. I was so busy originating loans, growing kind of like brick by brick from 2010, kind of when the world came back online for mortgages. year after year, better and better. And I couldn't keep up with my own personal growth. I had to keep stacking support around me, processors, LOAs, all that stuff. I never had a minute to step back and say, how do I go bigger than even me? Until I was really presented with the opportunity to partner with my partner, David, who my best friend, he used to work for my best friend who built and sold a tech company in New York City, right? So I had a bit of a mentor who was like, here's how you do it. First things first, you need a partner, Scott, because like you're a sales guy, you're an originator, you're a leader. But if you're anything like me, you probably don't know any, payroll, HR, systems, all, CRMs, building the tech stuff. I was like, you're right. That's not me. Ops is not me. And so I found the perfect partner. And that's really when I had the opportunity to say, and at first he just helped me with the COVID boom. He was just helping me with my existing business as we were figuring out like, how are we going to grow a business together? At the time, it's like, I'm drowning in business. Help me put efficiencies and operations into place that I've never been able to do. And then we kind of built off of that. The first version of GoRascal was not the version we have today. It was small. We wanted to nurture 10 to 15 LOs, hire them with no experience, no preconceived stuff that jaded and disgruntled, like no set in their ways. We're gonna build this thing, and we're gonna teach them from ground up. And we got it going. And then when things fell off, then the world, our mortgage world kind of fell off a cliff in early 2022. We realized that model wasn't probably sustainable. And that's when we pivoted.
I love the honesty, and I have more questions about that. Just one thing though, how long you been in the industry for?
21 years.
20 guys, your flow, your hair, the flow is unbelievable. All right. It's just crazy that you've been in the industry from that, honest to God, 21 years in the game. It's unbelievable that you're still at it in a producing capacity as well. 58 million is not chump change, especially considering you're still running a business on top of it. So that's a massive testament to you. I mean, keeping that excitement, keeping that drive in the mortgage industry for 21 years and doing it with a smile on your face. There, you got a mindset probably like people would not comprehend or understand. So that is a massive, massive win. And I just wanted to make sure the community understands that. I also appreciate the honesty about, the cliff and changing. We did that with my company as well. Everyone's like, oh, you have this, you have that. 2022 was terrible for my company, right? Across the board. And so you have to learn to make the adjustments quick. And that's something people don't really talk about. So we'll dive into it. Alex, a bit to you here. Walk us through, what is your role within the organization? How did that come to life with you and Scott kind of connecting?
For sure. So I had spent, over 4 years at United Wholesale Mortgage. I was an AE over there, top 10, linked up with Scott, years ago. And as him and I got closer, it was always, kind of a joke, and it was always there. And seeing the growth and the massive things that GoRascal was doing, I predominantly handled, New York business, New York account. It's always been my forte. And I saw the opportunity we had in New York in front of us. And Scott came out, and one thing led to another. And now I'm the vice president of growth. I oversee everything on the recruiting front. I see LO trainings internally, essentially everything on the sales side that doesn't roll up to Scott. And even things that do roll up to Scott, him and I partner on a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's our origin story in a nutshell. But yeah, I was his UWMAE for multiple years.
So I was in retail for 6.5 years on my end, and you talked about developing the training, and you were obviously at UWM for quite some time. How important is that now, especially for the new loan officers entering the industry, where they actually have a very specific structure in terms of onboarding, specific training? How has that shifted? Because what I learned when I came into the broker space about 5.5-ish years ago is there wasn't really a lot of that infrastructure for most places. There are some outliers out there that have all that, but we're starting to see a lot more of the trainings, a lot more of the onboarding, a lot more of having a process and systems in place. Where did that come from? And have you seen that? Obviously, your numbers don't lie, but have you seen that make a change and a difference for the business?
Of course. I think it's the most crucial thing. One thing we have here, we call it the balanced blueprint, right? So even though we are, a flat fee brokerage, and if people look at each amount of dollars we make on every deal, people will be like, "You guys are crazy," right? But found it super important because when you have conversations with the top profile retail loan officer, they're used to the culture, they're used to trainings, they're used to the brand, and unfortunately, the connotation underneath brokers for the longest time has been sloppy, no technology, unorganized. So that's the biggest thing that we have to come in out of the gate and kind of punch them in the mouth with it and say, hey, here's our culture, here's our brand. We have multiple meetings every single week, trainings you could plug into. We're going to hold your hand every step of the way.
I love that. Sorry, keep going.
No, I was just saying that was the important part, especially as you talk to a $100 million producer, possibly, right, on the other side, and they're just used to always being catered and nurtured and one same way every time is one thing we love saying.
Let's talk about the $100 million producer. One of the mistakes that we made very early on is we would change our process accordingly based off the producer, right? And that really bit us in the butt, for lack of better terms here, obviously. And the reason why is as it grows, right, and you give exceptions for one person and not another person, resentment starts to build. They talk to one another just like you should, right? Just like I talk to my partners, I talk to my LOs all the time. And so the standards have to be within certain confines. Was that a difficult kind of conversations to have with people that you're bringing on that are top producers? We're probably doing things a very specific way, and then you having to have the conversation like, look, this is really how we do it. We don't want to go too far outside of the confines of what we've built. How do those conversations go?
Oh, they go absolutely just like that. I think it's crucial to treat every originator that you have as if they were your only. And Scott's a testament to this as well. I know we mentioned his production and all the things he's doing and running, but he makes it even a goal that one of our quarterly rocks, we do rocks. He meets with 3 loan officers every single week, and we have 216 every single week, like clockwork. He is reaching out, setting up times, and making sure he gets with them. And it's always important to know how things are ever changing.
Yeah, Scott, you're a machine, my friend. And as
Just like you.
no, I appreciate you, man. And somebody who also produces still, what it does for me and my team, I have my outside sales team. We're at about 18 people right now, but they have a different level of the way they talk to me is different because I am in the trenches. Is that part of the reason why you continue to stay in production, is just staying close to the business, staying in the trenches? And how has that helped you bring on more people with the way that you operate and do business?
Yeah, there's a few reasons. And honestly, I think like the name of the game here is to sell your strengths and emphasize what you're doing. And there's 2 arguments. Some people say a CEO should never be producing. He should be out there helping the LOs at his company. Like my closed loans don't put money in my LOs' pockets directly. However, we reinvest a ton of our revenue and margin and profits into the business in certain ways that do benefit them. And so, first of all, I saw the fact that like by being in the weeds and still originating, like I've got my finger on the pulse on everything that, guidelines, products, lenders, you name it, right? Anything that's at the forefront of more sales, more opportunity. I'm learning it myself because I care about selling that directly to my customers. I spend about 20% ideally of my day originating. I have a great sales junior licensed LO team that helps take my business and push it through to closing. But I like that. I love leading, and when I lead sales meetings or whatever, I can talk about kind of the nuts and bolts and really what's going on, and not like high level strategy stuff. High level is good, but it's good to specifically, okay, UWM rolls out 3 things on Matt's sales meeting on Wednesday. I'm kind of salivating. I'm bringing that right away at 10 a.m. to our meeting, explaining, which things we're implementing right away and what we're going to troubleshoot and, make sure it works and all that stuff. And we have a huge in-house ops team. We have centralized processing. So as a company our size, a lot of big shops outsource processing. Because New York is our kind of headquarters, we have to have inside processors in New York. They don't allow they do allow third-party processing, but you have to go through the whole rigmarole to get licensed. And so we've said, okay, we're forced to have, an inside processing operation. So let's sell it, right? It's all about saying, all right, what do we have in front of us that we're good at? I don't want to say let's put a spin on it. It's not a spin. I think a lot of retail LOs, what scares them about coming to the broker channel and working for a big broker shop is having to go work with a third-party processing company and not be sure what kind of oversight and checks and balances are in place to make sure that the quality is there. We say, hey, we have inside processing in-house, all work for the company. We have processing managers. We have a chief of staff who oversees all the operations part of processing. So we sell what's in front of us. It's just like what we tell LOs, sell the rate in front of you. As a company, when we're recruiting LOs, we sell what's in front of us, and we sell it in a way that is appealing and attractive.
Man, you're giving me so much to work with here. It's incredible. So the thing that I love is, we actually just did a team meeting yesterday with my squad here, and I talked about the way that you sell matters. Your words matter. And I actually talked about the handoff to processing. And like you said, it's not a spin on it. It's my excitement. I really believe that it helps you. And whether you leverage third-party processing, whether you leverage centralized processing, it doesn't matter. My point was this, right? When I introduce my processor and I say, okay, one of two ways. I can either go, okay, hey, thank you so much. My processor will be reaching out to you in the next 24 hours. That's one way to do it. The other way to sell it is, all right, listen, the next person reaching out to you is somebody that's super close to me. They are my right hand. They're our processor that's going to ensure your file gets to the finish line. We have an underwriting appointment scheduled at 11 a.m. tomorrow. When my processor reaches out, it's imperative that you get them documents within 24 hours. Is there any reason why you can't do that? You see that? That's a sale.
Totally.
Everyone's like, oh, it's a spin. It's not a spin. I really believe that. And when you tell it to your consumers or people you're recruiting, they're going to feel that passion, just like I just felt your passion. You gave me goosebumps because of how you talk about that business, how you talk about processing. I think one of the biggest focuses for the broker space is processing, whether it's third party or centralized. What does it actually do for your business and for the LOs? Forget the recruiting for a second. Forget all of that. I'm talking strictly your business right now. What does it allow you to do to really have that built out the way you have it built?
Yeah, and I think like what you just did is there was sales and it was your framing, right? Like you frame that so beautifully, and like I like that word framing because it's exactly what's going on. You're setting it up for it to be received and interpreted by the loan officer, the borrower, in a way that is going to, you know, excite them, give them goosebumps, and help you win the business. And you believe in what you're doing. You know it's going to be a great experience. You know the LO is going to succeed and thrive at your company. So you want to set it up in a way where there's not a lot of friction. It's framed beautifully, and then you can move on to the next stage. But yeah, the centralized processing. Again, to be totally honest, when we were first growing and scaling, we were getting great advice from some of the Mount Rushmore broker owners in our business who I love and our givers. And they said, you got to spin off processing and right away as soon as you can. That's how you can grow. It's not really a profit channel. It's truly not. And it's pain in the butt. It's the constant strive to, there's no such thing as perfect, right? And files get messed up or whatever. And then we woke up one day, we had that mindset, and then we said, okay, we can't just blindly follow the people that have paved the path in front of us. We have to be true to ourselves, and we have to deal with the confines of what our business looks like and the New York restrictions and stuff like that. And the day we woke up and said, you know what, like those other shops, if they were forced to build processing, they would go and do it and they would kick butt at it and they would succeed in a different way. So we decided one day, all right, we're going to go all in on processing, and I don't care how big I have to build it. I don't care how much extra work it takes us, and it's not a revenue or a profit channel. We're going to go do that, and it's going to give us this differentiator in the marketplace to say we are a huge mortgage brokerage, but you can use third-party processing company. We'd love you to, but you don't have to, and we will close all of your loans, and we have 24-hour SLAs. We have huddles every day with our manager, with our processors. We treat processing as like almost an extension of sales, right? You have to, especially when, you want your processors to really take a handoff, like you just described, Jonathon, and say like, this is my right-hand person, right? Like if you're announcing them to the customer in that way, they truly have to be. So they have to be trained up and coached, and the way they frame things to the customer, the way they ask for conditions, can't just be the cook. You can't just cut and paste a condition from a lender and send that to a borrower. They'll have no idea what's going on. And our best processors bring our salespeople back in at the right time, right? The minute there is friction with the borrower and they're like, I already sent that to you. Bring in the LO. The LO will explain, why it was, the bank statement was cut off or they didn't give us page 5, whatever it is, right? And it allows our processors to meet their SLAs and move on to the next file. And our LOs totally understand and appreciate that it is ultimately their file and their role to kind of come in, and they're the best at doing it. A salesperson's the best person that could come in. I understand where you're coming from. I understand your frustration. Processors should process. So
the word framing is I can't get it out of my head.
It's like our Pee Wee Herman word of the day, right?
Oh, listen, it is good. It's so good. It really is. It really is that. And the reason why is I'm going to talk a bit about sales with you right now. I want to talk about the presentation, and I want to go back to processing a bit, but I always tell people this, right? That the framing of your presentation. Imagine you go to a doctor, okay? And you walk into the doctor's office, and then imagine the he or she doesn't do anything. They just look at you. They're not using anything to check your ears, check your nose. They're not checking your lungs. They just look at you and they say, all right, here's what you need. And we're going to prescribe you XYZ. Are you going to be confident with the prescription that you were given? No, you're going to absolutely go, what's going on right now? And in presentations, what I've seen, like some of my loan officers, we have this conversation all the time. It's like an order taking methodology. It's like, okay, you have 6.5 interest rate, 30-year term. Here's the loan amount, and that's it. So let's move on. Let's move forward. You're not framing. You're not dissecting. You're not asking the right questions. You're not setting yourself up for success, just like that doctor that didn't do all the work they're supposed to do. So for you, when it comes to framing a presentation, that you have a borrower, whether it's a refinance, whether it's a purchase, how do you frame and set it up to get yourself into the presentation call and the sale itself?
Alex, why don't you take that as it pertains to recruiting?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Setting it up and framing as it pertains. I mean, there's just so many ways to do it. I think that's where the loan officer can come in and show a bit more of their true strengths, whether they're working with our processing, whoever they are. That's where you can see the different talent fields in this industry. But when it comes to the recruiting end of it, I mean, we're bringing loan officers in every single day and having these conversations with them. And the ability to scale and sell your process to them is what they love hearing. I think that's the big challenge there that we've overcome.
What should we not do when we're framing? What are some takeaways and things that we shouldn't do? Whether
upfront and honest and transparent is always our policy. And even when something that they don't want to hear, I think it's the most crucial thing in the world. Because in terms of recruiting, you could tell somebody, yes, 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 and just commit to everything, right? But at the end of the day, they're going to move your NMLS. They're going to move their NMLS to you, and they're still going to be here in a month, right? And then you got to own up to all the yeses that maybe weren't. So I think transparency and honesty up front is always the biggest thing. Hey,
I also think, you can't really frame until you know, like what needs to go in the frame and who you're delivering the frame to. So sometimes you can make a lot of assumptions too early. Whether it's a customer or a loan officer, giving them space to talk about themselves and share what they want and whatever comes out, and give them space to kind of maybe attack or be a little aggressive about what you're selling to them, especially on the recruiting side. Let them go off on a rant. We listen, and we have Alex as our kind of head VP of growth, but we have like a small little recruiting team in-house, right? And we record and we'll listen into some of their conversations. And sometimes a loan officer will go off for a bit, because it's cold outreach in a lot of cases, right? So, and you have no idea what file's blowing up in the background for these LOs, really. So like they'll go off on a rant and they'll kind of be aggressive, and they'll make fun of GoRascal, the name. They'll totally slash the broker channel. I'll never go broker. You guys suck. And like 5 minutes later, like they're still on the call, like hearing the model, hearing the pitch. Really, like no kidding. And then they're starting to ask interesting questions. Oh, really? Wait, what? I can do that. And like, there's this and that. And next thing you know, it's an opportunity, right? And so giving them a chance to really open up and share whatever's going on with them that day. And then you get your opportunity to kind of plug in and step in and frame things. And mirroring is kind of a good one too, right? You kind of mirror. You don't want to yell back at them necessarily, but you give them space. And these conversations, you would be surprised where they end up going. And we have some LOs that have joined our company, and at the first 60 seconds of a phone call, you would have thought they would never ever come anywhere near us.
That's letting go of the ego too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such a big portion of this. I don't know if you guys were living under a rock, but the first 30 days when I was announced were not the easiest 30 days.
Dude, you were incredible.
Well, it's about what you said, right? It's like, okay, take a step back, listen, make phone calls. Like we made so many phone calls just to get in front that people, and all I was doing was listening, right? Just taking the beating, right? Just taking the punches, just getting ready. And then now it's different because all the conversations and the work we put in, we're now able to have more educational conversations and more adult conversations. And now we're getting more and more traction. But the ego, most of the time, is going to tell you to swing back right away, right? That's where most people go wrong, especially in sales. You lose if you swing right away. Like if a client comes out swinging, a realtor comes out swinging, and you're swinging back, you're just lost. You're out. And that's really important for people to let that guard down and let that ego down. Do you think that can be taught, or you think that just comes with time? Because I've been at this for a long time, 11 years for me. You're 21 years. Alex, I think you're over a decade as well on your end. And so,
yeah.
oh,
I
sorry.
think it definitely comes with time. It's a great portion of putting it. I think everyone can relate that when you're 22, 23 years old, I mean, this is something I had overcome. I'm a younger guy, but in the beginning, I would love to go right back and bash and do this. But like you said, it won't get you anywhere, right? So you have to frame it properly and take a step back, understand what they're saying, their frustrations, and it'll give you back that sales tactic part of it. Where do you want to get with that conversation? And if you blow it up right there, we get a recruit on the line and he starts bashing wholesale and bashing brokers. And no, you suck. You have 200 basis points margin on your price. You guys suck, right? It's not going to get you anywhere, right? They're going to go right back to where it is, and they're going to be like, who are these jokes that called us?
Listen, it's such an incredible place to be when you learn to let that go. I think it just makes you much more efficient as a human being. I also think it makes you just better at business, better having conversations. My favorite thing to do is I love the mute button. I learned this early in my career, but it's after, you make a comment or something specific. I just hit mute. Like if I ask a question and there's silence, I won't be the first one to talk because I just want to listen. I'm going to hear them out. And I'm not going to budge. I love the awkwardness. It's my favorite thing in the world. It really is. Like my team will laugh now because they'll see me do it. I'll put it on speaker. I'll hit mute and I'll just sit there like this. I've gone as long as a minute and a half, 2 minutes, just nothing. And then finally, whether it's the realtor, whether it's the client, whether it's an LO, it doesn't matter who, more times than not, they're going to budge. And that allows you again to start listening and start preparing the next question, not losing control of that conversation. Because the whole point of having conversations like that, whether it's with the client, whether it's with the recruit, is about it's power control, right? It's a power dynamic of, okay, I'll let go of some power for this conversation, but you also have to let go. But the biggest issue people have is up front, they clash. And so no one wants to let go first. For you, it sounds like the two of you, and for me, it's like, okay, I'll let go first. No problem. You can have it now. But if I give it to you, that means I've earned the right to get some of it back. And so there is a very crazy psychology to it, and that helps people scale and grow in their businesses. So talking more about sales, Scott, really, really want to dive into your $58 million year to date right now. Building that kind of business, like people would I don't know what they would do for that kind of business right now. There's people out there I know that there's a lot they would do in order to have that. How, I don't want to say how, what are, as you were a new LO versus where you're at now in your career, what are 2 or 3 things that you have done differently to allow you to capture that constant and consistent success? So first started maybe a couple years in versus where you're at today. What are the changes that you made in order to have this business come through?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind, by the way, I was going to pause for 60 seconds and just see who kind of took it from there.
Oh, I wouldn't listen. I legit.
We'll meditate for 60 seconds. That's a great move. I love it. We're gonna try that in our next leadership meeting, Alex. I think the first thing that comes to mind is confidence. I've been on podcasts and things like this, and so I've been asked this question before, and I think within 60 seconds or 2 minutes, whatever, of having a conversation with a customer, they've identified that I'm their guy before I've given them put a single number in front of them. And I think they hear the confidence in my voice, just the way I can flow and talk about everything related to, mortgages, pre-approval, everything that needs to be discussed in that early stage. You kind of take control without being aggressive, and you just go and you flow. And yes, you pause and you ask questions early. And I say things like, and I do this in emails too, like, does that make sense? Like when I answer questions to customers, I had a customer email me yesterday where it's a bit of a complex file, and I had to break down 2 different scenarios. At the end of the email, I said, does this all make sense to you? It's like a little tiny thing, but I'm showing that I care with just naturally by saying, hey, I want to make sure you get this, without just hitting thanks, Scott. And then they have to go and be like, whoa, I don't get this. And who knows, there could be a tiny little piece of them feeling inadequate and I should understand this, and it's making me feel bad. And those little things can stack up, and they can say, all right, Scott's pretty good so far, but I'm not sure I love this experience. Right. And so but that comes with just that comes with a confidence and kind of a empathy a little bit at knowing, I know everything on this side and the other person on the other side just doesn't know nearly as much as me. And I think that just comes out in the conversation. And so, yeah, it's confidence, it's bedside manner. We talked about this a lot with kind of the framing and not being defensive. Like, to me, I use the word bedside manner, and I think it's so easy to differentiate yourself in this business that is still largely dominated by people who, aren't great, aren't great salespeople, don't, respond to emails, cut corners, just are crappy in general. And so I think it's very easy to stand out by, having confidence, bedside manner, asking questions, showing you care, just through the natural process. And that's what we do with LOs. I think back to the recruiting thing, the reason that LO went on a whole rant, oh, screw you. And then they hear Alex talk and they're like, okay, this guy's actually kind of nice. I thought he would have hung up on me already, right? Like, the last 3 guys I did this to sent me like the bird after they got off. Like, that's what people are doing out there. And I get it a bit. Like, it feels pretty crappy to get yelled at. You want to like fight back but you don't. You sit there and you listen, and then you start talking and you're calm and you're nice and you're explaining things well and you're asking questions. And then they're like, all right, I'm going to hear this guy. I can't tell you how many LOs we've recruited that they haven't necessarily come to the company, but they've said on our pitches and on our videos, our one-on-ones, Alex does a lot of case study deep dives with LOs where he breaks down, like, here's a retail LO that's come over just like you, and here's what their production and take home was before, and here's what yours will be. It's a true case study, right? Apples to apples. And they'll often say, I get inundated with calls and emails, texts all the time. Like, I can't believe I'm here listening to you guys. Like, I never take these calls, right? And we kind of know why. We already know, like, the secret sauce of what we do. So I said a lot there.
No. This is, yeah. I wrote down case study because I'm not going to forget that, because that is brilliant. I'm stealing that, just so you know. So thank you for that.
Everyone can have it.
What you said though, look, the biggest difference is that you actually CYA. And I teach my people that all the time. Like, me as a new LO, you write a loan and then you automatically, you're already counting your check. You remember, how you used to do that? Like, oh, this one's in the bag, we're good to go, it's going to close. And everyone, all the OGs, they're like, don't do that. Don't do that. Hey, I have 14 that are going to close this month. Don't do that. Stop
now
it.
You have 9.
Yeah. You just lost 5 off the rip. And so I think, like, what I teach my people is CYA. So what I mean is, after every conversation with my client, email recap every single time. That way there's if the client comes back and says, well, you said this. No. I sent you an email on that date that we talked. I'm actually trying to shift my team. So we just signed up with Zoom, and I'm trying to get everybody to use it. And it does AI summary. So if you call through your Zoom phone number, I do AI summaries now. And then when it's done, I just send that recap back to the client. It's been the most helpful thing for me, especially with just how busy life's gotten for me as I step into this new role and with, my kids and my next one on the way. But those are the things that actually separate. I know, what am I doing? So these are the
twins,
things that,
right?
I had twins. They turned 1 year old the day of Fuse. And then my wife and I were expecting our third during Thanksgiving week. Amazing. So we're going to have 3 under 1.5, because why not? I love them. The kids they've changed my life like you would not believe. It gave me such a purpose that I didn't realize I didn't have personally. And I thought I was already a very purposeful human being. And this just completely changed the game. So it is, we are very excited. I appreciate the love on that. I really do.
Yeah, Jonathan, we use Dialpad, which also now does an AI summary as well. It's great, but you're spot on. So what we call, David driving my COO is like written culture. We have to enforce what's called a written culture. And it's like, some of our LOs are probably like, you guys are wonky. Like, what are you talking about? But when you break it down and explain it, I can tell you how many LOs come to me and be like, the AE told me this. I need you to call them and get this done. They're not approving my loan. They're not signing off. I'm like, cool, like, put me on the email thread. They're like, there is no email thread. I'm like, so you're taking a phone call scenario question that you went through 6 weeks ago with the AE and we're using that to defend it? I was like, we have to put things in writing. If you call the AE, you have to write them after and say, just confirming that, I can get an exception at a 679 FICO on this deal. And they write back, yup, you're good. then we will win 100% of the time. So it's the same idea. It's more work. It's your emails you're sending after you have the call with your clients or whatever. We're doing it too. It's hard. Nobody's perfect. It's easy to get away from it. Just go back to your ways. And as salespeople, we just want to go down to the next call, the next deal, right? Then we want to get that high again, that adrenaline flowing. But it's what we're enforcing like day in, day out with our LOs and, all of our teams, top to bottom. It's one of the things that I'm not quite as excited about it, but my COO is, and we know how important it is.
I think that's helped us immensely, though. I want to add on that because I'm a sales guy. I'm not project management oriented. And the first thing, was really David's initiative that drew it down to Scott, and then it went to me, right? So now we even use Asana. It's like a task management tool that, I get an email from Scott, and I'll be laying in bed, and everyone will read their emails and be like, I'm going to do that. Then it's not anywhere visually for you except if it lives in your email inbox. Now you can even just forward that, create yourself a task, and you kind of work off of a project board. It seems kind of silly, but now you have it all written down. I wake up, I look at my board, I got to do this today. Oh, I can move this till tomorrow. Great. Update the due date. It's been an awesome adjustment.
Yeah. Technology is changing our lives overnight. You just have to adapt, and you have to grab, you have to use the things that you're comfortable using and leverage technology for sure.
There's nothing silly about having the ability to not have to remember things in your head, so you can make sure you're storing other information in there. There's so much science behind it, and we use a lot of different project management tools as well, and I'm always trying to get better at it because of how much information I'm trying to remember all the time. Like, it just makes your life easier. So I always tell my team that, because they'll laugh. You know how it goes. And Scott, honest to God, I feel like we have the same days. What the AE say? They said this. Great. Is it in writing? No. Awesome. What do you want me to do? The AE said we can do this. You can't operate off things like that. And so everything matters. Every little thing that you do matters. Recapping matters. Taking your time matters. The way that you structure a sale matters. And that's the biggest focus, that for those of you listening, the little things add up. They really do, as much as you think they don't. And there's going to be people out there, by the way, a majority of people will laugh and make fun of it. Those are not the people you want to be around, I promise. I know you've all met very high-level individuals. I know you have. I've been very fortunate to meet very, very high-level, wealthy human beings. You know what they don't joke about? Their time management. Like, it's not even like a joke. It's, you have 10 minutes, you have 10 minutes. It's not a minute over, it's not a minute less. That's how this works. And so it's so important to make sure we don't lose sight of that as we are starting to build our businesses, and we're coming up on a potential refi boom here around the corner. So I want to talk a bit about how you're preparing for it. I think a lot of people don't realize retail's been planning for this for the longest time. They have not been sitting on their thumbs. Okay, they've been hurting too. Retail has been hurting. You see it. You see so many companies shut down. You see so many companies lose money. And now this is the opportunity they've been waiting for, because they have the data, they have the information. What is your guidance, whether it's to your people, your company, or to other people listening? What is the guidance on you being structured and prepared for what's to come around the corner?
Yeah. I think for us, around the refi boom, we have almost 250 loan officers here. We have loan officers that have been with us for years. In wholesale, we have loan officers that have joined us, in the last 6 to 18 months, who have nice kind of past databases of, public information, phone numbers, emails, their client contact info. And so it's like, how do we leverage and make sure we capture all of that refinance business? I think UWM is doing a great job of reminding us every week how important it is to get out in front of our customers in advance and have the conversation even when they're not ready, so that they know you do refis, and they know what, you have time when the refi boom's not here to structure an email, put numbers in front of the customer, see when they want to bite, and then you get organized, either a CRM or a Google Doc, to say, all right, when the rate's at 5.875 with no points, this customer says, lock me in. So then you can call them, and it's a 7-second conversation instead of 5 days, right? So the message is so clear, I think, from all over that. And retail's already getting ahead of them, and probably selling them something that isn't even beneficial for them. And they're really good at sales, and they're really good at follow-up and technology. All the things we're talking about, retail has built and invested a lot of time and money into. And so for us, it's like, how do we get our LOs to be really honest about whether they know how to do refis and they're going to work them and go after them? You know, I think some LOs are like, oh yeah, I haven't been around for a refi boom, but when it comes, I'm going to leverage it. I'm going to do it all by myself. And, you know, we're finding some of them, you know, we're reaching out. Govy 125, you definitely have some deals that are eligible. Like, are you reaching out? It's like, I forgot how to structure an FHA streamline, or I've never done one. So help. And like, to us, we leverage our AEs and supports. We do webinars and seminars. We, you know, we'll help one-on-one if necessary to you know, help the LO get to where they need to be. But we'll also remind them, hey, like, we also have a team of people that can help work your book if you don't want to. If you just want to stay focused on purchases, you know, we'll help. We'll do it for you. You know, we'll create a refinance team with your name. The loan will go in your name. You'll get credit for it and whatnot. But we'll make sure it happens. And you get the refi today, and then maybe in a year you're in a different place where you then want to pick it up yourself and work it, or maybe not. Maybe you're like, that's amazing. The team did all the work. I did a little bit of, you know, app taking whatever, and I just got paid a really nice commission. So this has been great. This period of time where like rates haven't dropped so fast. I mean, they have kind of lately, they have a bit, but this has been a great runway. And we remind our LOs, like, this is the runway. Once it takes off, you know, you might lose. We don't want to lose. So let's make sure we win. Let's make sure we, you know, learn how to do it. And again, be honest with ourselves. If you really like, like, I don't really like refis, great. We've got our team in place that we built, you know, and we'll take them for you.
And don't assume either. You know, I was in retail direct to consumer for a very long time. We were very good. I mean, very, very good at it. And one of the reasons is we don't assume that a consumer doesn't need to talk. They've been struggling too. Like, we had one, I send out, you know, past clients to my team, their past client list. And I had somebody, I won't mention name, you know, that they know I love them regardless. But they were like, you know, John, this person's at a 2.875 interest rate. I said, just call them to check in. I'm not saying they could do anything, but call. And they're like, but John, I said, please just call or I'll call, right? Just like one of those methods. I said, all right. They called, and sure enough, they called me back after. They're like, well, you were right. I said, what happened? Well, they don't need to refi, but they're actually listing their home and need to buy a new one.
Boom.
And I was like,
amazing.
Look, I told him, I said, I don't want to be right. All I'm telling you is that's what retail is doing. I said, imagine retail for some reason got a hold of that client because they have the money to pay and predict buying patterns, right? Because that's what they do. They have so much money where they can see what kind of changes are happening. And now, because you didn't prejudge, don't prejudge that your consumer doesn't need help because they're at a 2.875 or a 3.25. It doesn't matter. I don't care what they're at. Call and say hi. Even if that's the conversation, who cares? At least they're remembering you again. And that's what people are missing out on, and we have to stay in front of it. So we're finishing up here, but I want to wrap it up with a question for each of you. And I'll answer it first just to give you guys some time to think about it, because I really want it to be I really want you to think deep about it. The question I'm going to ask the two of you is, you are driving down the street, okay? And you see on the sidewalk there walking an 18-year-old version of yourself. And as you drive by, you said, you're going to pull over and you're going to go have a quick conversation with this person. And you can simply tell them something to not have to worry about as they're going through life. For me, honest to God, it's very simple. It's, you're going to lose your way and you're going to go down a path that you shouldn't go down. And just remember that it's all going to be okay, and surround yourself with the right human beings. That's what I would tell my 18-year-old self. I had a very different, you know, life and things I had to work on, and as a very young man. And so that to me is something that I always strive on, and I always think about it each and every day, because I didn't know I was going to be okay when I was 18 years old. So I will start with you, Alex. If you have what you would tell your 18-year-old self driving down the street, you see that human being, you see Alex Jokai, and you see that 18-year-old happy, excited young man ready to take on life, what would you tell him?
Alex was 18 like 2 years ago. So we have to be like 13-year-old.
Almost 10. All right. But let's, can we cut that part? I'm just kidding. Geez, that's a deep one, and I love it. You know, honestly, I think I would tell him, and it's something that I've adapted, and I think of it every single day. It's just, you do good, and you do good by your people and whatever it is in your day, whether it's your personal life, whether it's your work life, whether it's taking care of a client or taking care of a recruit or taking care of an internal LO we have here. You just do good things and good things follow. I think that's, as corny as it is, it's kind of just like the universe will always give it back to you. So I would tell them, just make sure you treat other people the way you want to be treated, right? You tell like a 5-year-old that, but we still deal with it every single day in our lives. And mortgage or not, or personal life, I think just being a good person, the world will reciprocate.
You know, I just heard something at AMCON, an event I was at with Renee Rodriguez. Remember, cliches, they might be cliches now, but at one point they were something that were changing the world. So I don't think it's corny at all. That was a really big deal. And I think it still is today. So I appreciate you sharing that. Scott, on your end.
Great one, Alex. I'm going to get a little vulnerable here, but this is the only career I've really ever been in. 21 years. I did a little bit of something else right out of college, and when I was 23, I think I fell into this business, and I was very insecure about this being my career for probably the first 7 or 8 years of being in it, maybe 10. I went to an Ivy League college. People thought I was going to be a doctor, this and that. And so, there were even people when I was in the business starting out being like, wait, you're a mortgage broker? Like, why didn't you make something more of your life and yourself? So I would go back to my 18-year self and say, you're going to end up in a career that you love, that is going to provide you so much opportunity and freedom and flexibility, and it's going to challenge you, and you're going to grow, and you're going to build skills, and it's so many opportunities. It's going to be amazing, but it's going to be a bumpy ride at first, and it's definitely not going to be what you expect. I'm not going to tell you what the career is, but it's not going to be what you expect based on where your path is taking you now. But get through those early years and stay true to what makes you happy, and you will end up great on the other side.
I appreciate you both more than you know. I had a mentor one time tell me, you're going to want to quit this industry 3 times. Once you get through the 3rd time, you're never going to leave. And that human being was not wrong at all. For all of you listening in, we appreciate you. Thank you, Scott Valins, Alex Jokai from GoRascal, building something special, doing special things in the trenches, really thinking about people, being honest, direct, and transparent. Until next time, thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.